Alright, so with Resident Evil 4 Remake coming fairly soon now, I think we're literally just under 8 months, which is not as long as you would think. There's been a lot of discussion on, what would make the remake better than the original. There is a two-sided conversation with that, like there is also the whole, what will the remake do that makes it worse than the original game? And we are going to be looking at both sides of the coin for that conversation, but today we're going to look at what the remake could do to make it a better game than the original. Now the points I'm going to be talking about are a lot of what people are saying online, and I do agree with some of them. I don't agree with all of them, but they are kind of the majority ones that people do like to say. So we're going to look at those, kind of discuss why it could help the game be better than the original, because obviously the original is held in such high regard. There's big boots to fill, so we're going to look at kind of how that would kind of par up to the original game. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. So first and foremost, the gameplay. So Resident Evil 4 Remake is going to play a lot like Resident Evil 2 and 3 Remake. What I mean by that is there's no longer the whole aiming requires you to stand still and shoot, and then you move when you unaim. You are going to be able to free aim, basically wherever you want. People are saying that's going to ruin a lot of the intensity, especially in the big fight areas like the beginning of the game, in the village, cool areas on the island, and some of the smaller arenas in the castle as well. People do say it's going to make it a bit more trivial. However, kind of disagree, kind of agree, and I'll go over why. So let's jump back to Resident Evil 4, the original game. Currently, the AI was quite smart, right? They all kind of worked together, they huddled up, they kind of followed you, they picked up ladders that you kick down and climb up to you. They would get to you fairly easy, and you being unable to move, while you shoot did cause issue, because if you got swarmed, you were going to get grabbed, you were going to get hit, you need to reposition before that happened, basically. I do have a separate video coming out about the enemy AI and the Ganados and stuff like that, but with the remake, it's more likely that the AI will be improved as well. The AI in 4 at the moment is already really good. Like, it's really responsive, they play together really well, they do things that sometimes you don't expect them to do, and there's a lot of interaction with them. So I'd imagine, now that you're able to move them and shoot, that they're going to improve the AI in some way so it still feels as claustrophobic and as intense as it was. What they'll do, no one really knows, but I'd imagine maybe there'll be more of them, maybe they'll be a little bit faster by default, a little less janky, because sometimes you'll kind of aim at them and they'll kind of wobble around, mainly to dodge your bullets, but because you can move too, they might need to adjust that a little bit. So I think the AI will be improved, and the combat will still feel pretty intense, and I know a lot of people don't like the old controls. Just recently, a friend of mine and me were playing through Resident Evil 5, and this was the first time playing through it, and he said he wasn't a fan of the whole aiming requires you to stand still, and it is something you get used to, that's for sure. You do get used to it quite easily, but not having the freedom to move and having to reposition yourself can be annoying, and I think a lot of newer players to the series, so 7 and 8, are kind of used to that not being a thing, so maybe there'll be an option for it. I would like an option for it personally, an option to switch between the original kind of stationary aim or the remake where it's more free, so that would be pretty cool. But enemy AI combat I think will be improved overall quite massively, so I'm looking forward to that in regards to the combat. So next up, let's talk about Ashley and how she'll work in the remake. Now again, we'll go back to Resident Evil 4 at the moment. Currently, when Ashley appears in the game, it becomes more of an escort mission. Like, she always follows you, she kind of ducks when you aim near her, she kind of stands right behind you when you're shooting so you don't shoot her accidentally, and she kind of is a bit of a hindrance at the moment, I will say at times. Like, I've played through the game a bunch, and sometimes she'll just do something completely out of the blue and she'll die, or she'll get in the way, or she'll constantly get grabbed, and it's pretty annoying. But a lot of people are saying, again, talking about improved AI, maybe she'll be a bit more like independent throughout the game. Like, maybe she'll kind of not fight back, I don't think she'll fight back, but maybe she'll kind of move out of the way sometimes, be a bit more responsive when there's enemies nearby, actually kind of listen to you a bit better, because obviously you can command her, but sometimes she goes the wrong way. Like, you'll be really far away and you'll tell her to wait, and then you'll tell her to come follow you, and she'll go the wrong way, or through a load of enemies. Maybe the AI pathing back to you will be a bit better, is what I'm saying. She could help you fight. There's potential that she picks up a brick or something maybe, and it stuns something, but I don't think she'll like properly fight. There's a lot of people saying as well that it would be cool if there was like a switch to character option, where like when she's with you, you can switch to her and move around the way yourself. I don't think that would be something I want to see. I think it'll kind of throw you out of the fight. Like, all of a sudden you're fighting loads of Ganados, and next thing you know, you're controlling someone who can't fight back, and you're just hiding in a corner. Like, I don't know if that's going to be, like, the best move, but I definitely think improved AI is something that is going to happen across the board anyway, so maybe it should be a bit more useful. Moving on to accessibility and more, like, engaging with players and making more people want to play the game. This one's fairly fresh because of Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8, and we'll get into what it is. You can probably already tell where I'm going, but the option to play the game in a first or third person perspective. Now, surprisingly, a lot of people that like 7 and 8, and I love 7, prefer the first person perspective over the third person perspective in every single game before that. I don't mind either way. I think either perspective is good. They both have benefits. But with first person, again, like I mentioned in the video a couple of days ago, that threw a lot of people off of playing 7 and 8 because of the perspective and motion sickness included with that. Some people just don't get on with first person, but at the same time, a lot of newer fans to the series do like the first person perspective, and I'm a fan of it. I think it's good. It shouldn't be permanent, which it isn't, thank God, but it's good. If it fits the game, it works. And with Resident Evil 4 taking this new horror direction, maybe there'll be a toggle. Maybe there's an option to play in first and third. After all, we are getting a VR version of the game at some point. So in a sense, the game will be in first person. So maybe they do add a first person mode to it as an option. That would be pretty cool. Me personally, I'd probably play it first in third person just to get the original feel, and then play in first and third like whenever I want to. It adds a whole new depth to the game. The perspective's a bit better, makes it a bit more scary as well, because obviously then you're kind of restricted to what's in front of you rather than the general area of the third person camera. So it'll definitely kind of add some flavour to runs as well, which is good. So I'm all for that, to be honest. I don't know if they'll do it at launch, but maybe down the line they'll add another camera option at some point. And then last but not least, we have the story and the tone of the game. Now, we already know Resident Evil 4 Remake's story is basically being completely redone to fit a new narrative. It's going to be a lot more dark, it's going to be a lot more scary, and probably a bit more grounded as well. Like Resident Evil 4, at times, it's quite out there. Not really a complaint. I think it's quite fun with an over-the-top story, and I think it's notorious for certain parts of the game, which are just ridiculous. But they've already said they want to keep it grounded, they want to keep it more realistic, if you can even call a Resident Evil game realistic. More scary, more intense, and a bit more serious. That's fine, but a lot of people are saying, you know, yes, keep the game more serious, keep it more scary, but don't lose that original feel of Resident Evil 4. What I mean by that is, if you play Resident Evil 4 enough, or even if you played it through once, you'll know the game's a bit goofy at times, like very goofy at times. All of the Resident Evil games are a bit cheesy at some point. Every single game has some kind of one-liner, some kind of scene, and it's just a bit of a laugh. But Resident Evil 4 really didn't take itself that seriously, which a lot of people do like about the game, but with them taking it in this new direction, and they've already said it's going to be a more serious game, with Leon kind of experiencing PTSD and stuff like that, and the game being genuinely scary, it might lose a bit of that. I'm kind of hoping that some lines stay in from the original game, some of those really like cheesy lines that you'd really recognise when you play the game, but I don't think all of it's going to stick around. So I think they need to find like a perfect balance between the two, like throw the jokes in when they're necessary, and when they make sense, but for the most part keep the game on this like serious track, I would say. Like I said, every Resident Evil game has cheesy moments, stupid one-liners, and as long as it fits the situation at the time, it's fine. A lot of Resident Evil games, and I hate to say it, but Village does it as well, they really try and throw them in there just because, and it doesn't work half the time. So just make sure it makes sense at the time, and that the situation kind of demands it, essentially. And that's essentially going to do it with all the points of the game that people want to see that'll make it a bit more stand out than the original game, make it a bit better. There are more, and some of those points there, like I said, don't fully agree with them, and also some of those points do kind of lean into the the game might be a bit worse than the original game. But at the end of the day, when the game does launch, it is down to a preference. I always like to think with remakes, although there is a remake of the game, the original still exists, like Resident Evil 2 and 3 at the moment. Like, yes, the remakes are there, and Resident Evil 2 Remake is pretty good. Resident Evil 3 Remake, yeah, it's 50-50, but if you don't like it, the original game still exists, so you don't lose that game, like it's still there. There's just a choice then to play the new one, or play the one you already like. So, either way, I'm sure it's not going to please everyone, I can already tell that, but I think it'll be pretty good. I like the seriousness that's being involved in it. It looks really good as well, and there's not really that long left to wait. So hopefully we'll see some more of it soon. I'm thinking around Tokyo Game Show we'll see more of it, and then obviously then it'll be released. But yeah, that's basically the points for the positivity side of it. I'll go into the negative at some point within the week. But let me know your thoughts on it down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.